your parents are immigrants and you and your brothers and sisters are the first folks to have ever lived in the United States, then you, my friend, are in a very interesting, unique, but challenging position, aren't you? You're in this challenging, unique position because you most likely saw your parents work very hard. You most likely saw them work 2 jobs, maybe 3 jobs. You most likely spent a lot of time alone at home when you were a kid and you didn't see your parents a lot because they were working so hard. You also probably didn't grow up with family all around you, and it was probably really expensive and very difficult for you to make time to see your family, wasn't it? And if you're like me, you wanted nothing more than to give back to your family, to give back to your parents because of the sacrifices they made, and to be able to one day afford all the luxuries, be able to fly back and see your family and literally give them the world. Don't you? If that sounds like you, you're in luck, because in this video, we're gonna break down the #1 absolute best job for first generation Americans like you and myself. So without further ado, let's get into it. Oh, hey, what's going on everybody? Untitled Chapter here, AKA the best dressed man in tech sales, don't forget it. And in this video, what we're gonna do is break down why tech sales is the absolute best job for first generation Americans, anyone with immigrant parents, and anybody with the desire to really give back to their family in ways that they probably could only dream of. So without further ado, let's get into the details. Before we get into the 4 specific reasons why tech sales is one of the best jobs for first generation Americans, I want to tell you guys a little bit about my story and how this career really impacted myself and my family's life. First and foremost, where the heck is my family from? Well, my mother's from a country called Montenegro. My father's from a country called Bosnia. Both countries are in Eastern Europe, a part of former Yugoslavia, right above Greece and across from Italy. Growing up as a first generation American, you get to see your parents go through a lot of struggles. And probably one of the first struggles that a lot of you can resonate with is your parents having to work multiple jobs, right? If I reflect back on my childhood, there were several times where both of my parents had to work 2 jobs. Specifically, my mom was a pastry chef, and she actually told us that she was going to night school, God bless her, and trying to get a college degree, but she was actually working the night shift at Albertsons, working in their bakery as well. For my father, not only was he managing a 7-Eleven, but outside of that, he was also throwing out papers for the Daily News. And so there's several times where I saw my parents, again, just working incredibly hard. And I always knew in my heart that I wanted to, A, prevent them from having the need to work 2 jobs, or 1 even at that point. But number 2, just give them an incredibly relaxing and easy life after they work so hard. The second challenge we go through is not having family nearby, right? If you are a first generation American, you might have some family in the States, but most likely your family is dispersed all over the world or back in your home country. And for my situation in particular, 99% of my family is based in Serbia, Bosnia, and Montenegro. So growing up, again, we had many great neighbors and, a lot of American friends that were like family to us, but we never really got to spend Christmases, birthdays, any other sort of religious holidays or important holidays with our family. And that was something that I always craved deep down inside, that I really wanted. And I knew one day I would make it so that we can go and spend that time with them. So that was the second challenge. Challenge number 3, just not having the money, not having the funds or the ability to afford the time to vacation and travel and see your family overseas, right? Plane tickets are expensive. And in my situation personally, I think I went to go see my family first when I was probably 4 years old, right? Which I don't have much memory of. I went again when I was 8 years old. And then I didn't go back until I was 16 years old. All because, not because we didn't want to, right? But because the funds, right? We didn't have the money. And then finally, after I graduated college, got a professional job, started working in tech sales, I was able to go back in 2015 when I was 23 years old. And so really, throughout my young adult life, I was only able to see my family 5 times. And that was something I also radically wanted to change as soon as possible. But despite those challenges, I got incredibly lucky finding the career that I did with tech sales, because tech sales has completely changed the game for me and my family. And I'm happy to say that last year and the year before that, I was able to see my family twice in a single year, which is absolutely huge for me, considering that for the first 23 years of my life, I only saw them 5 times. Now, let's get back to the purpose of this video and explain the specific 4 reasons why tech sales is an incredibly good career for first generation Americans and how it led me to be able to have the time, the flexibility, and the funds to actually go see them way more often than I used to growing up. Reason number one, why tech sales is the best job for first generation Americans is because you have a high likelihood and ability to be remote, right? Last year, guys, I was able to go to Montenegro and Bosnia for a month and actually not even need to take PTO the whole time. I did take some PTO just to, break away. But for half the time, I was actually working. And I didn't really have to make too many modifications in my schedule because thankfully all I need is my laptop and an internet connection. And thankfully we had both. So obviously being able to be remote and not having to be physically constrained to a work location in the United States allows you the flexibility to go and travel and see your family and just stay with them, right? As long as they have internet and you're able to get on your Zoom calls and do your things, execute on your tasks, you're going to be able to visit your family at a higher frequency than you ever would in the past, right? If you work a job where you have to be somewhere, it's gonna be tough. You're gonna have maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks off of PTO, and your ability to go travel and see your family is severely limited. So that's what tech sales allows us to do, is release those limitations of having to be somewhere physically and give you the ability to work remotely with your family as long as they have that internet connection. Reason number two, why tech sales is the best career for first generation Americans is because of the high salary, right? We need a high salary because not only do we have to take care of ourselves as individuals, but in most cases we have to help our parents and our family overseas. And let's be real, if you're getting paid $100,000 just on the salary, maybe you're making 150 or 200, 300 with commissions, you're in a much better position to give back to your family, right? For example, my mom just came to visit me in Miami this weekend. We go shopping. I'm able to buy her what she wants. I'm able to, take her out to nice restaurants and dinners and do things and have experiences that we could not have 5 or 10 years ago, right? Same thing when I go overseas. I'm able to pay for things. I'm able to show up with gifts. I'm able to bring all sorts of things because of the salary I've worked towards in tech sales. Also, depending where your family comes from, if there's ever an emergency where they really need funds or some kind of other drastic measure that happens, you are going to be in a better position to help them being in tech sales because why? You get the commission, you get equity, you get all sorts of other financial incentives that put you again in that better position to help your family monetarily should there be a need. Reason number three, why tech sales is such a good career for first generation Americans is you have a high ability to work overseas. All right, what I mean by this is most tech companies, right, especially if they're just selling software, they don't have a need to manufacture things. They don't have a need to produce physical goods. They're just selling software. And with that, as they're trying to grow, they need people to sell to folks in different markets, right? If they're trying to expand to Asia, they're gonna need people there. They're expanding to South America, they're gonna need people there, right? All over the world. So if you notice that you're working for a company that wants to expand geographically or they're starting to branch out in different countries, you can simply have the conversation with your management team and say, hey, I have family here. One of my big goals is to eventually live there someday or just live there for 1 or 2, 3 years. And that's something I'd like to work towards. And if you can demonstrate the results and be diligent in your job, I have no doubts that you can absolutely live there one day should you choose to do so. I personally know several people who have done this. I know folks who have switched from a United States office to a China office, from a United States office to an office in Spain, from a United States office to an office in London. And honestly, there's nothing stopping myself from doing it. The reason I haven't done it is just because I haven't pulled the trigger on it. So that's the thing, guys. You also have the ability to market yourself, or not market yourself, but position yourself to work in another country of your choosing. Reason number four, why tech sales is the best career for first generation Americans is because you can inform and educate your family about this career path and potentially change their lives as well. I'll never forget it, but last year I went to Bosnia and I started telling my family a little bit more about what I do. And in most countries, especially if your parents or your family lives in a rural area, it's going to be hard for them to grasp this concept of working remotely, selling technology, and even defining what the technology is, right? So you might have to go through some hoops and hurdles explaining what it is exactly you do, but especially if you have family that is younger, maybe kids that are in college, right, cousins or whatnot, you can tell them about this career path. And let me make sure you guys are aware of this, but these types of roles, SDRs, BDRs, account executives, tech sales folks, they're available in just about every country. You can go on LinkedIn right now, put in the country of your choice, and just see what account executive jobs are there, what SDR and BDR jobs are out there. And if you can educate your family about this career path as well, you could potentially put them on to be in a very lucrative field at a very early age. And so that is one of the most powerful reasons why tech sales is the best career for first generation Americans, is because you can pass on the knowledge and potentially change the whole life of your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, whoever it might be that lives overseas, and give them the knowledge of a career path that they probably never even thought of or knew existed. So there you have it, guys. Those are the 4 specific reasons why tech sales is one of the best careers for first generation Americans. But let's go ahead and recap really quick so we don't forget what we talked about. Number 1, we talked about how being in tech sales allows you to be remote in most cases. And if you're not remote, you at least have the ability to earn that privilege. And obviously being remote puts you in a way better position to go and visit your family, right? You can go visit them and not have to take PTO. And all of a sudden you're in a career that is no longer constrained by your PTO time. And you can truly go and work over there as you wish, so long as you have that internet connection. Number 2, we talked about the high salary component that you get in tech sales, which obviously puts you in a much better position to give back to your family, to be able to afford the plane tickets, and should they ever have any kind of need, you can always give back and provide as needed. Number 3, we also talked about how in tech sales, you have a great opportunity to work and live overseas, particularly in the country that your family lives, right? If you're working for a young startup that is growing internationally, you can position yourself to eventually become one of the first employees in that new country they're breaking into. And number 4, we talked about how being in tech sales would allow you to actually enhance your family's life by passing on the knowledge about this field, right? In most cases, especially again, if your family lives in a rural setting, maybe they're on a farm, they live in a very old school agricultural type lifestyle, they probably have no idea about tech sales. And so again, if you can drop this knowledge on them, especially your younger relatives who maybe are in school or are just more open-minded, you can really impact the long-term trajectory of their lives and earning potential. There you have it, guys. Those are the 4 specific reasons why tech sales is one of the absolute best jobs for first-generation Americans, especially for those who have a strong desire to give back to their parents and to their families overseas. Again, if you want to give them money, if you want to give them experiences, if you just want to spend more time with them, this career will really, really enable you to do that. And I'll just tell you from my personal experience, right? I went for the first 23 years of my life only seeing them 5 times. And I can say in the last 2 years, I saw them 4 times. So just let that sink in for a second. In the last 2 years, I saw my family almost just as much as I did in the first 23 years. That's absolutely still nuts to me. And most important, what I'll share with you guys is last time I went there, 2 years ago when I went, I told them, I said, listen, the years, the pattern of me only seeing you guys every 5, 8, 10 years, I'm cutting that out. That's not happening anymore. I'm going to see you guys every year for the rest of my life. And I'm happy to say that tech sales is really what enabled me to make that promise. If I was not in this field, I don't think I'd be able to say that. So I hope you guys take that to heart. I hope that resonates with you guys and you understand why exactly this career is so helpful for first generation Americans. That said, you guys, I hope you enjoyed the content today. If you did, please hit the subscribe button below. Also, if you're not doing so already, go follow me on LinkedIn. And last but not least, if you want to break into tech sales or you already are in sales and you're trying to up-level your expertise, you want to differentiate yourself from other sellers in the marketplace, go ahead and check us out at the B2B Syndicate. See what we got cooking up over there. All right. With that said, guys, hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you all in the next video. Take it easy now.